I'm Alvaro Peralta with MiningIR, and in the studio today we have Scott McLean, CEO of Transition Metals, and Greg Collins, COO of Transition Metals. And we are going to follow up on some exciting news from October and talk a little bit about 2024. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Alvaro.
Thank you, Alvaro.
So let's dive right in. Yeah, let's dive right in. Since our last discussion, there has been a notable shift in the market, and sentiment seems to be going up and towards resource minerals in general. How has this impacted Transition Metals, and what strategy and are you guys looking at for 2024?
Yeah, good question. We did see the overall markets improve in 2023, near the end of 2023, as inflationary indications were coming down, interest rates. There was prospects of interest rates being reduced in 2024, which kind of ignited the market a little bit during the end. But we really kind of started off a bit of a quiet form, I would say, in 2024. But we anticipate that things will continue to improve as we go forward. There still are some investor jitters out there that affect the small cap companies like ours, who really rely on retail investors. We are seeing a number of green shoots, however. Commodities still continue to be strong overall, even though we've seen some retraction. Things like gold and copper, uranium will continue to be strong through 2024, we anticipate. And if you're an astute investor, you'd see that many of the small caps, particularly in the mining industry, really are at their all-time lows. When you go through the data, only about 1% of the investment in mining stocks was placed into those companies that are below $25 million market cap. So if you are a retail investor, there's a good opportunity. Take a look at some of these small caps and move towards putting a placement in sooner than later. With respect to strategy, another thing that's sort of shifted, we feel, in our business is that we're getting a lot more interest from some of the major companies in the smaller juniors. And what does that interest mean? Well, they are looking at projects, and we are talking to a number of larger companies, but we're also seeing some of the majors invest in equity in some of these small companies. For example, BHP and Glencore and Anglo have all kind of put equity placements in various juniors, and it's really sort of giving us a new platform to take a look at. How do we respond to that? Well, in the past, we've often sourced junior companies, other small cap companies, to take up our projects that we have available, often for IPOs and so on, where they're looking for a qualifying project, and we've got a nice, interesting project that really suits them. When we're sourcing the majors, we take a different perspective. We tend to build up the geological and geoscientific platform to a lot higher level. We put a lot more investment of our own internal money into those projects to bring them to a level that would interest a major. And you'll hear from Greg that that's what we're doing on a couple of probably 3 of our projects, actually, but certainly a Pike Warden, which we talked about in October, and also Maud Lake. And so it's a different approach that we have, right, for at least the first half of this year. We're always interested in talking to juniors, but as I stated earlier, the juniors have taken a real hit through 2022 and 2023, and their ability to really get involved with us has been limited. So we are sourcing those mid-cap and larger companies right now to get involved with.
That's excellent. So I'm hearing from you, I guess, from the investor side, great time to be shopping. And as well, the supply and demand issue is making the big boys kind of start pushing the juniors to start producing a little more. So it's gearing up to make 2024 quite exciting.
Yeah, we're certainly seeing those majors, step down into the mid-tier companies that have some decent prospects, and we anticipate that they'll be looking at some of our projects. Well, they are looking at our projects right now, and we anticipate that we will hopefully have a deal or two to bring to the market over the next few months.
So Scott, tell me, can you provide some specific financial metrics or milestones that have been achieved since October 2023 that demonstrate that to Transition Metals, the growth and stability, in particular in relation to the investors, is how's that returning?
Yeah. And your word in this market for a small company like ours, stability is a big word, right? And that's one thing where we perform very well. We set ourselves up for the upside. We maintain a good, well-managed company that's not diluted its shareholders significantly, and we are able to kind of move forward and keep our company fiscally strong. And for example, last time we talked, I think we had about 1.34 million in cash on hand, and we had about 4.2 million in marketable equities, for example. You look at us today, well, we're down a little bit. We're down from 1.34 to about 1.25 million in cash, and we're down in our securities from about 4.2 million down to about 4 million. So minor changes in our fiscal position, but during that time, we've carried out a lot of work and progressed a lot of projects. We continue to advance Pike Warden, come up with a number of new exciting showings there through the fall. We've continued a drill program at Maud Lake, and we're out there today doing geophysics. And we've carried out airborne surveys on one of our key projects going forward as well. So we've done a lot of work and been very creative on how we've been able to finance or fund that work. And still remain a fairly stable, fiscally strong company in a very kind of difficult market for this sector.
Thanks, Scott. Greg, I'm curious. Last time we talked, Pike Warden was one of the main topics that we were talking about. Can you tell us a little bit about the operational developments at Pike Warden? What advancements have been made that would be of interest to the investors?
Yeah, we've been quite busy since we last spoke. We've been active really at Pike Warden, but also Maud Lake. But at Pike Warden, we were encouraged by our summer sampling results and the multispectral satellite imaging we did. So encouraged, we decided to follow up on that through the fall. So we had another field program where we got out there and followed up on some of these things. But last year our focus on the property was investigating a series of really high-grade epithermal silver and gold occurrences, and but the work this year highlighted a series of structures related more to copper and molybdenum mineralization that we think are now providing indications of perhaps a bigger but near surface porphyry system. So, since we last spoke, we went back to investigate some of these things. That work resulted in the discovery of two new molybdenite occurrences in this kind of emerging area of the property that kind of encouraged us to do some additional staking. And so we've expanded the property. We're starting to kind of see an even bigger opportunity, I guess. And, we're looking forward to, continuing to, work and expand, our understanding of the size of this system. Maud Lake, we were actually awarded some grant funding from the province of Ontario, Strategic Metals, to leverage our ability to do stuff on that. And we used this fund to come back this year to do a ground-based conductivity survey over the property. And we're able to follow up this fall with some drilling some targets that we're targeting conductive targets down dip of some real high tenor nickel sulfide copper mineralization we intersected last year. Last year we intersected around 20 meters, averaging 0.3 nickel, 0.28 copper with 4 meters, 0.6 nickel, 0.5 copper. And, this survey indicated that this thing continues to grow or looks like it's got better size. So we follow that up with some drilling this fall. Anyways, we think this one is still a pretty interesting, large, high tenor nickel copper PGM system in Ontario. And we're just catching glimpses of what that potential is. But we're still, at this point, we're waiting on drill results from this, and we're looking forward to doing some on the results from our borehole EM work on that as well.
This market has provided some unique challenges for sure in exploration, and I'm just wondering, for the investors, what are the current challenges that you're experiencing in resource exploration, and how are you adapting to that? What are you doing to address those when it comes to operations?
challenge as always is investment, but in this market, as Scott says, has been a difficult year. But I think the key, as Scott points out, is to be creative, and we're always looking at ways that we could add longer term value to these projects in non-dilutive fashion. So we've been fortunate last year to access more than $300,000 in matching or grant funding from provinces or jurisdictions that we're working in, principally Ontario and the Yukon, where these governments are actively trying to promote the kind of project generative work that we're doing. But this really leverages our investors' exposure to the work that we're doing in non-dilutive ways, and just an example of that creativity, I guess, in challenging times.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Greg. Yeah, absolutely. And Scott, your current earning reports shows a reduced net loss compared to the previous year. Can you discuss how these financial improvements align with your strategic plans?
Well, honestly, Alvaro, the investors that we have are not really focused on our earnings per share. They're focused on the big discovery that will skyrocket that earnings per share in the future. But on a year-to-year or quarterly basis, all these companies through the last couple of years have showed modest earnings or no earnings to losses. And it's interesting that you've picked up on that fact. Our exploration expenditures have not really markedly changed from our last fiscal year to this fiscal year. The part of the income statement that has changed is really in the revenue side, or the value of our assets. And in that particular comment, or that particular piece of financial information, the improved share per loss is really as a result of us taking most of the hit on the value of our marketable securities in the previous fiscal year, and having less of a hit on a value of our marketable securities in this recent fiscal year that we've just concluded. But I think strategically what that tells you is that...
Well, that shows the strength of the business model you carry.
That's right. So we are managing not only our balance sheet, but our income statement. We are leery of that we did have a loss per share, and we hope to be able to, as a small company and a company in a market that generally doesn't provide investors earnings per share until they have significant success. We hope to be able to have a positive earnings per share this year. And that will be, although we'll continue to expend money on exploration to really generate a significant upside for our investors, we will hopefully have a positive earnings per share through the increased market and the increased value of our marketable securities and our associated companies, the values of those spinouts that we own. So look forward to next year. We should even be better, although we've reduced our earnings per loss. We would like to see we have reduced our loss per share. We would like to see a positive earnings per share in 2024.
Excellent. I think the investors are happy with the reduced risk provided by the business model that you carry. With the diverse range of minerals in your existing pipeline, including the zones that you talked about at Pike Warden, how is Transition Metals adjusting its exploration priorities in 2024?
Yeah, so I guess, we're anticipating that we're going to see a renewed interest in these small cap mining stocks. As I mentioned at the start there, really nobody's investing in them right now. When they're investing in the mining sector, they're investing in the big boys, the plus billion-dollar companies. Is where something like 87% of the investment was in 2023. And we're trying to position ourselves to make ourselves an attractive investment at the very bottom of the cycle. Where we see areas that investors will be interested in is certain terms of the commodities. We feel that gold will continue to improve in price. We expect it to break that $2,100 per ounce mark sometime this year, maybe even the first quarter, as an instability around the globe continues and uncertainty around inflation and interest rates continues. Gold remains a safe haven. We are leveraged towards gold with our spin out and Canadian gold miner, as well as a number of other gold projects we have, and some business development ideas that we have with our existing gold projects. We also have a gold position within our Pike Warden project. We look at copper, although copper has seen a recent slump in price over the last little while, or I guess a bit of a downtrend. We anticipate that will continue to be a strong bullish commodity going forward as we continue to electrify the society and have huge demands for copper. We see some the copper supply disruptions that have happened around the world, such as what's happening in Panama and so on, will again be a positive on the supply demand ratio, which hopefully continue to see copper increase. And then the one out there that intrigues me and is really uranium. And I've always said that the reason we have so much carbon in the atmosphere is because the environmental movement of the 1970s that squashed uranium and nuclear. And now we're at a point where we're starting to see a real return and a real recognition that this is a very clean a way to produce energy, a much more energy intensive mineral, or a process of creating energy. And if we put as much effort into reactors as we're putting into batteries these days, I think things are just going to get better and better over the next number of decades in the nuclear field. So we have thought about nuclear and we have thought about uranium. There's nothing we can disclose today, but that's certainly something that's on the radar for us in the future. Is that uranium market. So stay tuned. We'll continue on our copper quest as our gold quest, and we will be scratching our heads on the uranium market as well.
Well, and they go hand in hand. No energy, the copper doesn't have really a lot of use. So with the uranium, I agree. There's very little other solutions available globally to meet our energy needs as we decarbonize. So, Greg, I want to go back to Pike Warden a little bit, talk about the recent discovery of the high-grade polymetallic mineralized zones that you have there. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the potential impact that these discoveries may have on the company's exploration strategy?
Yeah, I think these discoveries are important. Like Scott has alluded to, our strategy is kind of shifting towards, trying to attract interest coming from more major companies, and they're less concerned on getting flashy results from the McGillicuddy zone. They're more interested in trying to understand things at a system scale, and what we continue to see there is something we think has all the hallmarks of a very big mineralizing polymetallic system. And so our strategy, I think, continues to work towards defining that on the system scale, and continue to engage with groups that can help us move it. Ultimately, a project like Pike Warden is going to need the investment coming from a major miner or a major industrial company, and our role is to try and take that project and de-risk it to a state that they're prepared to come in, so that we can start evaluating like the full sort of resource potential of it. But it's a good project. The results are going well. Things are very hot still in the Yukon. There's lots of people following the district with some successful discoveries, Snowline, and the major companies are looking at this district, and we have a pretty exciting new project there.
Excellent. Scott, regarding the Canadian gold miners' anticipated public offering, how do you expect the market value of Transition Metals' significant shareholding in this entity to influence your company's financials and the strategic decisions that you're going to be making in this coming year?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, because of our accounting principles that we have to report, how we have to report our assets. I mean, we don't get to report Canadian gold miner as its real value. In fact, we have to do what's called an equity pickup each quarter, which generally takes up a portion of their loss. We own about 20% of that company. On our books, we carry that at about $585,000 of asset value. We think that is extremely low compared to what the value of that company really is. We anticipate that company will complete a financing within the coming weeks or months. We anticipate that the value of that financing will be much higher than what's recorded in our books for our 15 million shares that we own, and we will be able to increase the value of on our books by that market value, hopefully at some point. In terms of its ability with that financing, I'm not sure how much they'll raise, but it will certainly be over $1 million. And with that money, we anticipate they'll continue their exploration projects, particularly in South Kirkland project, and work towards a transaction that would hopefully take that company public early in 2024, at least in the first half of 2024. But we'll have to wait and see what happens there. We don't pull the strings in that company, but we do have influence there. So the big takeaway here is the value on our books is really low compared to what the company is valued at in our minds and on paper. And that's through an accounting process that we have to adhere to. And we hope that will increase significantly with Canadian gold miners financing, hopefully public transaction in the coming months.
Sounds pretty exciting. It's like 2024 is shaping up to be a very busy year for you guys. Greg, I want to come back to you, and let's talk a little bit about the Ganda area. You guys were mentioning that you got some exciting developments there and a larger gold system. Can you elaborate a little bit on these developments and how they may reshape your exploration strategy moving forward, and what the investor should know about that?
A little bit. First of all, the area is the Ganda area, Ganda. But Scott alluded to, things do seem to be picking up in the gold space. Ganda is actually an area that Transition Metals, we've been active in that area for more than 10 years. And the thing that attracted us to that area, it's an area in the southern Abitibi in Ontario, was that we saw early on there were indications of very large, previously unrecognized gold system that actually goes and extends underneath a historic silver mining camp. The Ganda area was known in the last century for mining over 80 million ounces of silver. But in the time that we've been active in the area, looking and developing ideas and opportunities around the gold system, there's probably one of the more active. Our view was that this thing is associated with one of the major crustal structures in the Abitibi called the Rideout. And during the time we've been active there, other exploration companies have been active and resulted in discovering more than 15 million ounces of gold. So down the road from us to the west, IM Gold has developed the Cote project, which is one of the biggest development projects in Ontario, and developments in Shining Tree have really cast kind of a new light on this underexplored part of the Archean in the Abitibi. And so this Ganda project that we've been sort of nurturing has kind of come full circle a bit, and we reacquired our interest in it. We've engaged in some partnerships with some other Ganda area companies towards this objective of consolidating the camp with a focus on revisiting that camp for its gold potential. And to me, this is the first time, if we're successful doing this, it'll be the first time in history that this camp scale opportunity has been assembled. And we think it's going to attract some real interest for people looking for these opportunities and, the prolific Abitibi belt. So it's something we're working on. It gives us a bit more exposure to gold.
Excellent. And because you guys aren't busy enough with all these amazing projects and changes they have coming down, it seems that some of the permitting issues have been resolved and you have some forward movement there. What can you provide us in terms of information and updates on the current status of the projects that had permitting issues, and where are you guys at with that?
Yeah, in general, we haven't had a lot, but there's two jurisdictions we've had troubles with: BC and Nova Scotia. Just with delays in permitting and things cropping up that are interfering with some good opportunities. But the most significant one, I think, to the company is the Highland gold opportunity. This was a discovery we made back in 2018 that had some spectacular gold results. I think our last drilling there got over 9 meters at 22 grams gold, and it's been held up now for several years with permitting related issues. But we've been working through this period. We continue to engage with the government and stakeholders, and we're at a point now where the government and some of the activities we've undertaken are coming to the point where we feel they should be reviewed again this year. And we'll see what happens, but if we could resolve some of the issues that would allow us to get back and conduct, the very low impact, early stage kind of activities that were there, it'd be very exciting because it's a great gold opportunity that's been literally on pause for a couple of years. So there's, some hope that in 2024, this particular issue may hopefully be resolved in a manner that allows us to move forward.
Well, I think a lot of investors are, that be listening to this are just praying for that perfect storm where gold price goes up and these things come to fruition and it all comes together beautifully. And Scott, what do you want to leave us with? And Greg, what do you want to leave the investors with? There's a lot of optimism at the shows right now in the conversations. What's 2024 looking like?
Well, the engine started, so we're pretty bullish on it. We've definitely seen, the market's starting to creep up. Commodities are strong, and I think, as I mentioned earlier, the astute investor will recognize that nobody's been investing in the early cap companies, and essentially nobody's been investing in them. And now's the time to kind of get your foothold in them. Most of these companies are at really low valuations. Very limited downside, all upside with most of them. So you want to look at those companies that are fiscally strong, right? Not going to disappear because they don't have a decent balance sheet. They have great projects and great people. A good dive into us, and we're happy to sit down with any investor and talk in detail about the company. But in all of those ticky boxes, we hit the mark, and we've demonstrated that year over year. Without diluting the company, we have 67 million shares outstanding, and that's been since the company was started well over 10 years ago. We've carried out more than $45 million worth of activity during that time and have not diluted the shareholder. We can keep a clean balance sheet, clean income statement, and have good projects that we continue to move forward. So get involved with us. We're ripe for investment. And we'd like more than anything, we'd like an opportunity to talk to people about that and get them further understanding what a great opportunity we have here in this company.
What a great note to finish on. I appreciate that, Scott. Greg, thank you so much for joining me today at MiningIR. Again, Alvaro Peralta with MiningIR, and today we had the pleasure of catching up with Transition Metals. Thank you, guys, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bye now.